Indiana Pacers set
Yeah.
to get off on a much better season. Jennifer even noticed good article on Mr. Turner, Mr.
Oh, thank you,
Kravitz.
thank you. I'm getting a lot of crap for it for whatever reason, but if you don't think that Miles Turner is going to get traded, you're not paying attention. Now, whether he's traded in the next 10 minutes or traded 10 minutes before the trade deadline, he's going to be traded. Um, there's there's no desire on either side's part to give him an extension, at least as far as I know. I know for sure he's not interested in signing an extension, and who can blame him? They went out and they kicked the tires on DeAndre Ayton. He's going to be a free agent at the end of next year. There's no way they're going to lose him for nothing. That would be total management malpractice. So it doesn't take a genius or me to figure out that Miles Turner is not long for the Pacers.
Yeah, and they just had media days. I've gone through some of the quotes, Bob. I haven't kind of sat down and watched what each player or anything had to say, but it seems like the franchise is fully embracing the youth movement from the coaches to the players, and it's just kind of exciting for me as a fan from that perspective, because there's not often do you get a Pacers rebuild, quote unquote, and that's what this feels like, and it's. I've always felt like the Pacers organization has tried to use duct tape and bubble gum to try to get into the playoffs, to be competitive. And so for them to go the route of an actual rebuild, try to build for maybe a 3 to 5 year window when they can be really competitive. To me, that's really exciting. And it seems like the players and coaches know that that's what the plan is as well.
I really think, look, this is a really smart basketball town. And I think as long as they play hard and show incremental improvement, I think this town will support them. I think, look, the Pacers and their fans got very fortunate in that Donnie Walsh was able to rebuild a team that went to the NBA Finals in 2000 to a team that came back that was with a completely different group, went to the Eastern Conference Finals a couple of times, 2004 or 5, whatever it was. And Larry Bird did that as well. So they've always been able to sort of rebuild on the run. But in today's NBA, that's really a hard thing to do. I think those are anomalies, even though it kind of happened twice here in Indy. And I give Herb Simon a ton of credit for finally understanding that this is the direction they needed to go. It's not something that he really wants to do, but he understands that, you look at Memphis and teams like that, look at the way they've rebuilt. And next year's draft, where the Pacers are going to have 3 first-rounders, that draft goes 7 to 8 deep as far as franchise-changing players, including Victor Wembanyama, who's going to be the number 1 pick, a 7'3" Frenchman who's supposed to be the next coming.
One of the things that interested me, as you mentioned, Miles Turner's been on not the chopping block, but the trading block multiple times. His name's always come out. Did the Pacers re-signing Jalen Smith, who I don't know if they thought before the end of the season if he would re-sign. He seemed to be playing really well and playing his way into a better contract, but he decided to stick in Indiana. Do you think that plays a factor in the Pacers shopping Miles a little bit, or do you think it's just been long-term? Okay.
Yeah. No, I don't think it has anything to do with it. They desperately need forwards. They desperately needed a power forward. That was a really interesting deal because Jalen Smith, I remember when Rick Carlisle kept playing him late last year, and everybody's like, this guy won't be here in the future.
Exactly.
Why are you playing him? And quite frankly, I understood where fans were coming from. But they were developing a relationship. They were seeing what the guy could do. And he took less money, significantly less money, to stay in Indianapolis rather than go elsewhere. He feels like this is the best developmental situation for him. He's guaranteed a starting position at the 4 spot. But as far as Miles goes, a completely different deal. That's separate from that. He's a free agent at year's end, and you got to get some assets in exchange.
Speaking of Memphis, you mentioned Memphis. I saw Penny Hardaway escaped problems from a while back when he'd given money to a kid that then later on he becomes a coach at Memphis.
Funny how that happens.
Yeah, just perked up, but he escapes problems with the independent enforcement board, who is also being dissolved after they finish their current caseload. That's no joke. It was the independent accountability resolution process is what it's called, was designed to streamline the enforcement process and reconsider complex cases.
Streamline? This has been going on for 3 years.
That's the whole point. It's what gets it so funny.
January 6th hearings will end before this.
That's what makes it funny. It's being dissolved after they finish their current caseload.
I honestly have not read deeply into that whole situation. I read a column from a friend of mine, Jeff Calkins in Memphis, who talked about how he kind of skirted the law there, the NCAA law. But I'm not sure how he gets out of this unscathed, but apparently he did. So he's the Teflon Don, I guess.
Yeah, but I just love the fact that this board is being dissolved as soon as they get done with their current caseload. That's why, because as you mentioned, this started. It was handed the Memphis case in March of 2020.
Wow. Okay. Well, it's a little quicker than I thought. So 2 years.
But it was happening before that. This is just when they got their hands on it. So it's been a long time coming. The Colts, Mr. I guess we can call
you can call me
Kravitz Damas, Baba Damas, someone
dumbass, and whatever you want.
Nostra Babas. There we go.
Yeah. So in case I haven't repeated it about 1,000 times, during the course of the week after they got run by Jacksonville, I wrote a column saying, we've seen this movie before. They always start slow. They always figure it out. By the end of this season, they will be in the hunt for the AFC South title. And then a couple of minutes before the game, I don't know what compelled me, but I tweeted out, I said something along the lines of, Colts, was it 3.5 hours from now, this may look really dumb, but I'm picking the Colts by 3 points today, and I'm going to die on this hill. What was the final score, boys?
2017.
Thank you. So Insufferable does not even begin to tell the story of how annoying I've been since I was right, because as my wife likes to remind me, I'm never right.
That was my favorite part is when you would predict something right and you can just boast about it, because people on social media will be the first to let you know when you are dead ass wrong. So you play up those W's as much as you can.
Yeah, I've air conditioned many arenas with bad takes. Like Trent Richardson's a great trade. I remember that one. That was a good one. Of course, they only lost Johnny Manziel in the deal, but you take a lot of swings, and sometimes you whiff, and sometimes you hit that son of a gun right out of the park. I was Aaron Judge that day, baby.
The home run hitters are always the strikeout leaders.
That's right. I got a little Dave Kingman in me, if you want to go way back.
Oh man, Dustin,
I was going to ask. The Colts got the win, which is obviously big. The way they got the win, though, any level of concern? Because I mean, Kansas City absolutely gift wrapped that with a fake field goal, missed another field goal. Then they had the fourth down stop, and a 15-yard penalty gives the Colts a first down. So, I mean, you got to give credit to the Colts because they didn't roll over like they did in Jacksonville. But through the first three games, the thing you talked about heading into the season, I still don't see a pass catcher other than Michael Pittman Jr., at least a consistent one. And they are struggling to move the ball. Yeah.
The offensive line has been a complete surprise to me. I mean, I thought, I knew that they might take a little bit of a step back with Danny Pinter in place of Mark Lewinsky. And then, of course, at left tackle, you're really undermanned. You've got Pryor and Ryman. But I never thought they would be this bad. I mean, Ryan Kelly's not having a good season so far. Braden Smith's not having a great season so far. Poor Matt Ryan has been hit, 18, 20 times, something like that. He's been sacked. He was sacked 7 times coming into the game the other day. I don't know what the updated number is, but I have been shocked at how poorly the offensive line has played. And I'll tell you what, if I'm offensive line coach Chris Strasser, I'm renting.
I mean, it seems to be a theme across the state is poor offensive line play.
Apparently so.
I mean, it's kind of crazy how bad it is across the state.
And this is the highest paid offensive line in football. The Colts dedicate a higher percentage of their cap to the offensive line than any team in the National Football League. So they ought to be good at the very least. They are bad right now. Really bad.
Maybe they ought to this year it should be flipped, and they need to buy Matt Ryan some sort of apology gift instead of him buying whatever the typical present is for the quarterback for the offensive line. But
his time to pass has been something less than 2 seconds. I mean, it's been brutal, and they keep talking about communication. I'm like, for God's sake, is like one guy speaking Mandarin and the other guy Tagalog or something. I mean, how does this work? It's football. It's not that damn complicated. Get it together.
Right. And heading into this week, you got a big one because you've already lost. Lost to Tennessee. You've already tied with Houston, you already lost to Jacksonville. Now you go into against Tennessee, and Tennessee's not off to a great start either. They're sitting at 1-2, the 2 teams that were expected to be at the top of the division. I mean, what challenges does Tennessee present for the Colts?
Well, I mean, I think Tennessee, Tennessee obviously it's like two teams looking in the mirror. You've got average quarterbacks, terrific running backs. So Zach Kiefer had a really good piece in The Athletic this week about how you can't win a Super Bowl with just a dominant running attack, which we kind of knew already. But if you go back, the last team to win a Super Bowl with the league's leading rusher was a team that I covered in 1998 in Denver with Terrell Davis.
Wow.
I don't believe you were born in 98, but that's another story.
I was.
So, I'm sure you were. So I think they match up well. They've got to go anywhere. They got to be great on special teams, which they were last week, and they got to be great defensively. I felt from the very beginning, because of the lack of pass rushers and lack of tight ends, that they were going to have to rely on this defense. And they did add Yannick Ngakoue, who played great the other day. They added Stephon Gilmore. So I just think, if they play the kind of defense they played the other day, they're going to be in every game.